All right, let's talk about something really cool today. We're going to break down a 7-step roadmap for getting humans and AI to work together. Like, really work together, in perfect sync. Think of it as a blueprint for tackling really complex problems without everything descending into chaos. It might just change how you think about getting things done. So let's dive in.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll cover the big idea, this whole roadmap for thinking. Then we'll walk through the 3 main phases, the setup, the action, and the reflection. And we'll wrap up by looking at why this whole approach, which is called metacognition, is such a massive game changer.
So let's start with the fundamental problem this whole thing is designed to solve. Picture this. You've got a team of absolute rock stars. Some are humans, right? They've got intuition, creativity, good taste. And others are these incredibly powerful AIs that can crunch data at lightning speed. So how in the world do you get them all pulling in the same direction on a single, messy, complex problem? How do you keep it from turning into a total train wreck?
Well, the answer is actually a really simple but powerful metaphor. To get harmony, instead of just a bunch of noise, any orchestra needs 2 things, right? You need a conductor to lead the way, and you need a shared sheet of music that everybody can read and understand. And that's exactly how this framework works. There's a conductor in charge, and there's a plan that everyone can follow. This is the core idea we're going to be digging into.
So let's get into our first section. I want you to understand this isn't just about code or some technical workflow. It's a structured way to think about any problem. It's like you're creating a cognitive orchestra where every single player, whether they're a person or an AI, knows their part inside and out. Okay, on to the first phase, the setup. And this is so important. The big idea here is that the most critical work you do often happens before you even take the first real step. It's all about preparation, getting crystal clear on the problem and putting the right team in place before the show even starts.
The setup basically has 3 crucial moves. First, you frame the task. What kind of problem are we even solving here? Is it analytical, creative? You got to know what type of thinking you need. Second, clarify intent. This is huge. What does the person actually want? You have to dig past the literal words. And finally, you map the actors. Okay, now that we know the what and the why, who or what is the best fit for each piece of the puzzle?
Which, leads to a pretty obvious question, right? If we're mapping all these tasks to actors, who exactly are the players in this cognitive orchestra of ours? Let's meet the team. Now, this is where the source material gets a little bit fun. It gives these conceptual roles some pretty memorable names. So first up, we have Dennis. Dennis represents human judgment, that expert taste. They call Dennis the judge. Then you've got Buzz, which is the raw machine power, the execution layer. That's the engine. Fizz is the go-between, the mediator, making sure all the communication is seamless. And then, pulling it all together, you have Kiklameta, our conductor, making sure everyone is playing in tune and on time.
All right, so the stage is set, the actors all know their roles, and now we move into phase 2, the action. This is where all that careful planning gets turned into actual execution. The orchestra is finally ready to play. And this right here is our sheet of music. Step 4 introduces something called Kiklang. You can think of this as the universal translator for our orchestra. It takes a normal, natural language request, just how you or I would say something, and turns it into this super clear, formal, structured instruction that every single actor, human and AI, can understand and act on with 0 confusion.
Now, with those crystal clear instructions written in Kiklang, the next 2 steps just flow: execution and synthesis. In step 5, each actor gets to work. Buzz, the engine, does its heavy computational lifting. Dennis, the human, provides judgment and insight. Then, in step 6, our conductor, Kiklameta, takes all those separate pieces and weaves them together into one coherent, unified answer.
And this is just so key. The source material points out that this synthesis step, this weaving together, is the moment where the magic happens. It's when the whole thing stops feeling like a bunch of separate, clunky mechanical parts and starts to feel like a single, intelligent system that actually gets it. But a truly great performance isn't over when the last note fades out. And that brings us to the final and maybe most important phase, the reflection. This is all about learning from what just happened and closing that loop. And here, in step 7, is what really makes this system more than just a clever tool. It reflects and it proposes. The system literally asks itself, okay, did we actually solve the user's real problem? Did the final output hit the mark? And it's not just a yes or no question. This is the system's executive function kicking in. And based on that answer, it then proposes the next logical move. This is the feedback loop that allows it to get smarter, to improve with every single task, and to become a real partner, not just a simple tool.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture.
Why does this super-structured 7-step roadmap matter so much? It all comes down to the power of metacognition. Now that's a fancy word, but all it really means is that the system can think about its own thinking. And believe me, that changes everything.
So when you put this all together, what's the real payoff? Well, for one, it forces you to get clear before you do anything. No more garbage in, garbage out. It also smartly assigns the right job to the right player, getting the best of both human and machine. It creates that common language so nothing gets lost in translation. But honestly, the real magic is in these last 2 points. It transforms a bunch of separate mechanical outputs into a single intelligent insight. And crucially, it builds a system that isn't static. It learns, it gets better, it improves. That is the difference between a tool and a true collaborator.
And that's what I want to leave you with. This whole framework was designed for humans and AI to work together. But just look at those steps again. Frame the task, clarify the real goal, map out your players, execute, bring it all together, and then reflect on how you did. What if you applied that same roadmap to your own teams, your own projects, or even just to the way you think through complex problems on your own? It's a really powerful blueprint for getting things done and getting them done intelligently.